Right, so let's take us back to that time, and there it is at the last conference, and the mood was upbeat. We'd kicked the pandemic that had delayed the conference from 2021 when we really wanted it, and we were seeing a rush of mining permitting getting done, and that was a really exciting thing to see. We got the Boda discovery story, we got the Cayley Lode discovery story, we had the southern extensions of Tomingley discovery stories all presented. So what a time it was. And there was this little company, Southern Cross Gold, that had just spun out of Mawson Gold, talking about Sunday Creek, and a lot of us going, that looks interesting. I wonder how they all go with that, with their drilling program. What we didn't know that we're at the peak of a mini boom. And I think that's nicely represented here by this graph from Hedley Widdop at Line Selection Group. This is April 2022, this is July 2024, and we've seen a flight of capital out of the markets. And this is not just an Australian story, this is a global flight of capital. And you can see it's really affected the juniors the most. In fact, the last one that they put out has got it at 75% drop in market cap. And why would juniors hit the hardest? Well, high interest rates, of course. People are getting good interest rates. They're not going to be as interested in going to the speculative market. But also the AI boom. So we're seeing yet another, like the dot-com boom, we're seeing another investment, I think, bubble, possibly, into the tech boom, and it's sucking the life out of the speculative market. But also from our own end, I think we haven't been able to sell compelling stories from the junior end to investors because it's getting harder. Discoveries are getting harder. They're more expensive. And every time you raise, you're diluting your shareholders. And you just have to keep doing that to keep the rig spinning. You know, it's a real circular argument. And Austex were showing in the first quarter this year that, obviously we've had a dearth of raisings and IPOs, but the average capital raising for gold was 1.5 mil, and that's just keeping the lights on. So this is a real issue. There is a light at the end of the tunnel of this, but yeah, basically high inflation and interest rates, and obviously the geopolitical conflicts we're seeing since 2022 has that's what's been driving this. So we're just going to look at some metal prices just to round off the macro trends. And of course, what we're seeing there is in critical minerals, we're seeing that driven obviously by the energy transition. But what we're also seeing that for all of the West's great intentions, this market is dominated by China. They're doing a fantastic job of locking this up and making it very hard for the West to come into this. Just by example, we're seeing gallium and germanium. They've been stockpiled fairly recently. Didn't make a lot of news, but it's the price of those two have actually skyrocketed. And as of next week, they are now cutting antimony exports. And antimony is a metal used in the defence industry. This is very critical to the West. You're seeing antimony prices going through the roof. This is actually really good for the Tasmanides because we have this beautiful marriage of gold and antimony in our deposits, particularly in Victoria, but also in New South Wales. So this is actually a good thing for Tasmanides exploration. So really the conditions are right for non-China supply of some of these critical minerals, but we are just so bad at permitting in particular, and just being very agile and getting on with the job in the country, and this is really affecting us. Even our ability to invest into projects outside of Australia is bad. So, and what you're seeing is that China, the door's been closed by certain Western countries for foreign investment. They've just gone straight to some of these big African and South American projects, and they're investing in heavily into there. So they are well ahead of the game. And just looking at a couple of, so the red line here is where we are. That was the conference in 2022. And even nickel here, they don't call it the devil's copper for nothing. It's just such a tough metal to really be successful in. This is a big spike in the price just before we met because of the invasion of Ukraine. And since then, of course, because of electric cars are just not getting the sales anymore. Range anxiety is real, not because of the vehicles themselves, they're okay, but the infrastructure that goes with that is in the US, in Europe, Australia, it's really a problem. People are going to hybrids instead. That's actually not a bad thing for PGEs because in their catalytic converters, but for nickel, lithium, it's bad news, and you've seen the prices drop. But not all of them have dropped. Tin is a great example, and look where we were at the conference back in 2022, absolutely rising high. It's very affected by warehouse, LME warehousing, and it's supply and demand. It's very affected by that. But it's also obviously used in solder now instead of lead, and with the AI boom and it needing all of these microchips and electronics, it's really seeing a rise again. So most critical metals have declined, but there's still plenty of demand out there. Gold, silver and copper, the other ones that affect the Tasmanides. Obviously we're seeing a great run of gold at the moment. And silver, also seen as a store of wealth, but you can actually use it in industrial. So we're seeing these solar panels and electronics used in the energy transition. So there's a really good story there for silver. So no problems there. Copper, obviously the effect of inflation, that's really slowed down China, and they've just refused to buy copper at the prices that they were at 2022. We've seen a correction. That's not a bad thing because the demand is still there. So it's on the rise. So copper's looking healthy again. So strong prices, but I must say that the margins are still tight, especially for the gold miners, because they've seen there was a real lack of investment from around 2011, 2015 into the mines. So a lot of mines around the world, the strong mines, are needing a lot of capital investment, and that's all been put off. And now it's too expensive to do the renos. And so we're seeing unprecedented all-in sustaining costs across these mines. So prices of the all-in sustaining costs has just gone up with the gold prices, so we're not seeing those super profits. Right, let's have a look at the Tasmanides and a few of the mining milestones. And I'll just take you back a little bit. This is evolution. They sold Mount Carlton in December 2021 to Navare. And just to show, I just wanted to highlight how hard it is to keep some of these mines going and keep them profitable. By June 2023, unfortunately, they had to put Mount Carlton on care and maintenance, and Navare went back to exploring in Victoria. So just to highlight how hard that is. But what we did see after the conference was a great run of development consents. So Great Cobar, Tomingley, Federation, Dubbo-Saconia hit a nice milestone. You had one of the Cal underground starting there. So it was a really great time, and it really felt like we're moving ahead, and the government's on our side here. Then unfortunately, the story doesn't get better, because we had McPhillamys that had to go through, so McPhillamys and Bowden had to go for the IPC, that's the Independent Planning Commission, which is, it's another layer of bureaucracy if there's anything controversial, so that the politicians can stay clean, basically. And unfortunately, we saw some terrible decisions, I think, here just last month. I thought this was going to be a good news story. It hasn't ended well. I think they're terrible decisions, and those decisions affect all of us, unfortunately. But just to end on a high here, so back to evolution with Mount Rawdon in Queensland. That's due to finish next year, but they're looking to use that open pit for pumped hydro power station. So keep an eye on that. That could be a really good news story and a great land use for our mining voids. Okay, and then M&A and JV activity. It's been pretty healthy, mostly in the Lockenfeld Belt, mostly for copper gold. But just Briggs up here, nice little copper porphyry west of Gladstone there, getting some really nice hits. The Alma metals farmed into that. Alkane brought up the Samphires, Mac RKLs. We've had Newmont farm into projects. Mac acquired CSA Cobar and done a great job to turn that mine around. Anglo Gold farming in on both Kincora and also Inflection. It goes on. The big story, of course, was Newmont taking over Newcrest, the biggest gold mining deal ever, and they are now kings of the Cadia Castle. And we're going to hear from Pip as to what Newmont's plans are. So, to sum up, major and mid-tiers buying into lock and fold belt, and with that dearth of capital in the market, this is a really good news story. Here's the paradox for me, exploration expenditure. If we look at across Australia, record highs. Even across this dearth of capital, we're seeing exploration expenditure really high. This is the Tasmanides. It's not following, there's a bit of the jaws opening as we progress through to 2024. And this actually includes the Proterozoic Queensland, and you can't pull those out of the data. So Proterozoic Queensland and Broken Hill, basically. And so when we look at the numbers for the states, so 185, you could probably knock 85 off that, or more, maybe it's half. It's still quite healthy in Queensland, and always has been. They've been good at putting a lot of money into the ground. New South Wales 75, Vic 50, and Tas just 12. So keep those numbers in mind. So even though expenditure's record highs, it's mostly in WA, and actually South Australia doing quite well as well. Then you look at drilling, and I think this really tells more of the story. So drilling has gone down. There's no doubt about that, and and actually since mid-2021, so before the conference, we're seeing drilling meters heading south. And that's just a reminder that as bad as it is for the exploration companies, the METS companies, so the drilling and the geophysical companies, et cetera, they are doing it even harder. It's even harder for them. And this is not just an Australian story, it's across the globe. So we're seeing, these are projects that are reported, this is S&P Global, reporting drilling activity, and it's heading south as well. And drilling meters in the line here heading south. So I think this is really telling more of the story than the exploration expenditure. Right, well, another way to see how we've gone exploration-wise, looking at maiden resource announcements, and we've had 26 since the conference last. Boda and Kaiser were announced after Mines and Wines, so here they are. And you can see that they dominate. So we added 9 million ounces of gold and 3 million tonnes of copper to the inventory, but a lot of it in here. Bush Ranger, a curious one, that's in the Sofala belt. It's very low grade, but they got a lot of tonnes into their MRE. And Mile, which is exciting, just north of North Parks there, and we're going to hear about that. Heemskirt was the only non-copper gold one to hit over 1 million ounce in their initial resource announcement. That's for tin in Western Tassie. So that's a good news story. But you can see a lot of the maiden resources, of course, quite low. So for rare earth, for zinc, for tin and gold and copper. That's okay. I mean, these things can grow, but it's just a reminder that, from little things, big things grow, hopefully. The takeaway, though, is that New South Wales MacArc copper gold dominates in these MREs. The other way to look at it is with drilling intercepts. So what I've done is just compiled all of this, but and then just took the top 30. They're all above 200 plus gold equivalent gram meters. Okay, so that was the benchmark, and it's only one per project. Otherwise, you would have about 10 or 15 from Sunday Creek alone. Okay, so, and Sunday Creek is the clear standout on this. And in fact, Victoria, doing exceptionally well with their orogenic gold, and this the Melbourne zone gold antimony story is a great one. I hope to hear more about that as we go. Also, obviously, New South Wales, lots of quantity there, and Hillgrove, also part of the gold antimony story, and Lovato taking over that and looking to try and get the mining going there back in Benny Hillgrove. You've got the infrastructure there. That's the important thing because it's so expensive to put the infrastructure together. Tassie for your 12 million bucks, not bad. Okay, so Henty's, you know, that's brownfields obviously, but we're going to hear more about the discoveries there. And Renaissance still going after all these years. Some great hits that they're getting in the tin mine down there. Fantastic. So these guys have really done well. The South has won the battle there. Right, so just my key points to take away. Hey, we've done all right. The last 2 years, exploration has been good, despite these difficult conditions. Sunday Creek, the standout, we're going to hear about that, so I don't need to talk more about it. And I'd say Victoria and maybe Tassie winning those jurisdiction stakes, for those who keep count. And despite this falling market cap, we've got exploration dollars still at record highs. But I think that the drilling decline is really telling the story, and that's reflecting the lack of equity investment. And just to show that, here's BDO showing this is just administration expenditure from ASX listed companies. And look at that, it is just rising. And now we're seeing, I think it's for the first time, that administration expenditure is just greater than money into the ground. Okay, and this is not a good sign. And it's a reflection of costs are getting higher. They are really getting higher. There's so much you have to do before you can even get on the ground, and so much reporting, the ESG work you have to do. It's all important stuff, but it takes time and takes energy. But also, you know, because of the lack of investment, a lot of juniors have to go into hibernation too, so you're only seeing those administration costs. So the other thing I would say, those juniors, they make over 70% of the discoveries, so that's how important. So it's really important that we have a healthy junior sector out there. They're the ones on the ground, and if you're looking to farm in, they're the ones with the local knowledge, and that is half the battle, is getting on the ground and having the social licence. So that's where this vested interest of the majors wanting more mines, farming into the juniors is a really important, especially at this time right now, is a very important part of it, and I hope that continues. So thanks very much.